So after going on my trip to Colombia and coming back, it seems like a lot of people on the internet are trying to scare you a bit about how dangerous the country is and what the safety situation is actually like. It's like they're over exaggerating a bit. And I actually don't think that's a bad thing. I'll explain that in this video here. So I just got back from my trip last week to Colombia and I went to a number of cities. I went to Cartagena, Medellín. I even went to what's considered the most dangerous city in the country, which is Cali. So I even put a little challenge on myself to, see if I could see what the safety situation's like in even the most perceived dangerous cities. It was really interesting preparing for this trip because if you read what's on the internet, you'll get a variety of opinions. You'll get people in the camp of, oh, I went and I had no problems and I was safe the whole time, to you're going to get drugged and robbed by 5 guys waiting for you at the airport as soon as you get off the plane. And it seems like I think most people's experiences are going to be somewhere in the middle. I'm not saying that acts of violence, acts of crimes can happen to people. Unfortunately, they have. And it's very unfortunate when that happens. I'm not saying that it's always their fault, because it's not. If you're just a bystander tourist and you get robbed or worse, something happens to you, that's very unfortunate. Based on a lot of the stories I see on the internet, which, first of all, when people have a negative experience with something somewhere, when it comes to a product, a place, an airline, whatever, there's more of an incentive for people who had a bad experience to talk about it on the internet. So all the people that have gone to Colombia had a great time and no safety problems at all, they're less likely to go on TripAdvisor and every place and every YouTube comment sections to talk about it. But for someone who's been, robbed or worse there, or something happened to them, they have a little more personal incentive to do that. They have a little more personal incentive to talk about that negative experience. And you'll find that in the comments section. So if you're considering a trip to Colombia and you're just getting a lot of mixed results and you just don't know what the safety situation is like, authentically, I hope I can provide that here with a number of videos on my channel and a video like this. But let's get back to the main point. People are, I feel like, over exaggerating a bit the safety concerns in Colombia. Now, are there safety concerns? Absolutely. I've talked about that in numerous videos. It is not a safe place. But is it a place where you're just going to commonly get drugged and robbed and kidnapped and stuff? I don't believe that to be the case, and the statistics don't really support that narrative either. But I'm actually okay with people kind of almost fear-mongering in a way. I actually don't mind it because, one, I would much rather people be ultra prepared safety-wise, like I was when I went a couple weeks ago, be ultra prepared for it, and then be relieved when they step off the plane and they start to experience the country as a whole, that it is much more safe than they expected. I would much rather see that than people, and a lot of gringos that go there, where they assume it's just going to be like a big city in the US, and they go and they get involved with nefarious activities and something bad happens because they underestimated the safety situation there. So I would much rather see that end of the spectrum. The second thing is the safety concerns and how people maybe tend to over exaggerate it keeps a lot of the bad people away who are just looking for a cheap vacation where they can engage in lots of partying, lots of stab, lots of sex tourism. And great, I don't want those people going to Colombia. I don't want those people going to any country to do that stuff. I don't want people doing that stuff in general. And I don't have a problem with saying that. But it tends to keep the people with a low barrier of entry where they just want to go quickly do something. It tends to keep those people away because they'll look at other places that are perceived to be safer and go, I'll just go do it there. So I actually don't mind those two aspects because I think it protects the country as a whole and it protects people as a whole when they expect something to be much, it's like overstudying for a test, right? It's like you'd rather be overstudied for the test than understudied for the test. It's just going to benefit you in that way. But if you're someone who's looking into going to the country and you've never actually been there and you don't know what to expect, I'll just kind of lay it out like this for you in 5 minutes, what the safety situation's like there. And I went to 3 different cities, Cartagena, Medellín, Cali, which all have different sort of aspects of safety. One is considered very unsafe and some of the other 2 are considered much more safe depending on where you're at. So the first, city I landed in was in Cartagena. Cartagena has a very, I would say, moderately safe strip in the Boca Grande area, Gethsemane area. This is the tourist area and it's kind of walled off from the rest of the city. So the first thing you have to understand about Colombia is your safety is going to be greatly determined by where you stay. This is not a place where you want to go and just wander the non-tourist areas by yourself when you've never been there. This is a place where you're going to want to stay in the more estrato 4, 5, and 6 neighborhoods, The places that are more frequently trafficked by tourists or police are more likely to be present. That's going to help your trip overall. That's going to help your safety account overall quite a bit. But when I went to Cartagena and I was around in those areas, I felt perfectly safe and fine. Was it a little sketchier than like your average American city? Sure, yeah, it's Latin America. It's a chaotic, unpredictable place, and that still never changes no matter where you're at in Colombia, and you should never ever let your guard down to a certain degree because anything can happen in these places. Then I went to Medellín, and I went to the Laureles neighborhood in Medellín. You know, stuff happens in that neighborhood. Stuff happens in any neighborhood in Medellín. It was pretty peaceful and tranquil. That's probably the safest I felt on the whole trip, was in the Laureles neighborhood. And I even wandered and walked around quite a bit during the daytime, just kind of exploring the area. And there's a lot of tourists there to begin with, and I never really felt unsafe at all. Still practiced all my safety precautions that I've talked about in previous videos, so I never let up on those. But it felt fine. I didn't really feel like I was in danger. The key is really to stick with any of the walking around and exploring you do, doing it during the daytime. Walking solo by yourself at night is just a quick recipe for disaster in Latin America, specifically if you don't know the area that well. So if you're looking to explore it safely, I'm going to do a video called How to Explore Colombia on Safe Mode, which that'll kind of cover how to really maximize your safety there. But in terms of what I did, wandering around it during the day, pretty easy thing to do. If you're going anywhere at night, Uber places, get a private driver. That's the best way to approach things. So for all the people who are like, well, you just stayed in the super safe areas, so of course you were fine, right? I love this sort of no true trip, no true experience fallacy that people like to throw, at people who go on trips. Well, I went to Cali. Cali, Colombia is not a safe city at all. Okay, and most people avoid it like the plague because of its perceived unsafetiness, and it is unsafe. I definitely felt the most sketched out when I was in Cali, Colombia. Even in the perceived tourist areas of El Peñon and San Antonio, this is not a safe city. But I wanted to kind of test things. I really wanted to get a more vibier feel, less touristy feel of Colombia. Like when I was in Cali, for example, there were no other tourists. There were no other gringos. Laureles, they're everywhere. Cartagena, there's a lot of them. So, this was definitely venturing out a little more. I didn't know people in Cali. That made it easier for me to kind of get around and go places. But even in Cali, if you exercise proper precaution, there were rarely times where I felt unsafe. The one time I did feel unsafe was walking around at night in the San Antonio area back to my hotel. I did have a Colombiana with me, so that did help because she could help navigate where I needed to go. But yeah, I was sketched out there, but I was breaking one of the rules, walking around at night in an unsafe area, in Cali, Colombia. It's going to be sketchy. I accepted that. I kind of wanted to just see what it felt like. I wanted to experience things a little bit. That was the only moment where I felt really like things were unsafe. Other than that, if you go to Colombia to experience it as a normal person, you go to restaurants, you meet people, you go to malls, you take drives to other nice neighborhoods in the city, you go shopping, you can even go, to different tourist attractions, salsa clubs that are in safe areas, things like that. If you do normal person things, even, you can even go to bars at night for the most part, but I would really be kind of careful with that if you're by yourself. If you do normal person things that you would do during a normal day here in America, you're going to be fine. I'm not going to say you're going to be mostly okay if you exercise precautions. But where most of the people are running into problems when going to Latin America is looking for, stab, getting drugs, SCX prostitution stuff, XCS tourism things, wandering around at night inebriated, okay, being drunk and walking around at night. Big no-nos. That's where you're going to run into 95% of your problems. Random acts of crime and violence, they can always happen, and they can happen anywhere in the world. There's dangerous cities in the US where that can happen, where you can be robbed or something bad like that can happen. But in Colombia specifically, if you avoid these activities, specifically at night as well, and getting involved with them and becoming inebriated, I just didn't feel like it was that unsafe. It wasn't what the comments had depicted it to me, right? What all the keyboard tourists had told me it would be like. And like I said, this is not me whitewashing or defending or, trying to make it seem like it's all sunshine and rainbows there. It's not. There's freaking rough neighborhoods you'll drive by. People are poor. Some people are desperate. For example, when you're stopping at stoplights in basically any city, 10-year-old kids will come out to wash your windows for 1,000 pesos, right? These are not, Anglosphere countries, okay? This is a different place and you need to treat it as such. But if you're coming there to do normal things and normal person things, aside from, the random chance of random act of violence or robbery that can occur, anywhere in the world, you're going to be mostly okay if you exercise precautions. That's what I would say on that. But if you're coming here to do the sketchy stuff, I would just say don't come, just stay away because these countries don't need you. But if you're going to do that, that's where you're going to up your tolerance for something bad happening. And that's the reality. And I feel like when people talk about, their stories of getting robbed or whatever in these different cities and places, some of them are probably genuine, but some of them I feel like people are not being honest about what they were doing or why they got robbed during that time, or they're not being honest about, the fact that they found the girl on Tinder 2 hours before, or they were at a bar and inebriated and walking around at night, right? I feel like there's some of that going on. So if you want an accurate depiction of what it's actually like there, it's still a place. There's still people. It feels fine. It doesn't feel like a war zone. Exercise precaution. Okay, the more you're going to go down the rabbit hole of reading YouTube comments, the more unsure and fearful you're going to feel about your trip. And look, if you're going to engage in those things, believe the fear. Believe you are in danger if you're going to do those things. I don't know how clear I can put it. But if you're coming to do normal things like I did, just you're cutting down your level of danger so much when you're going to do that. And so maybe hopefully that can help you make an accurate decision with regards to your trip. So if you have any questions, leave it in a comment down below. You can DM me on Instagram. I'll be putting more content over there and pictures regarding my trip. If you want to know about proper safety precautions or my reviews of how to get around in Colombia or any of the cities, click on that playlist over there. Let me know your overall thoughts on the video. And anyways, I'll see you guys next time.